Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the MyFootballWriter podcast. Whether you are watching us on YouTube or listening to us on Spotify, we're up to episode 61, and we're coming just off the back of another brilliant away performance from Philippe Clement's Norwich City. Another 2-0 win, another clean sheet. Philippe Clement's brilliant resurgence with Norwich City continues. I'm Jack Wright, or NCFC Paint. I'm joined by the magnificent Matthew Saunders, the wonderful William Grant, and the honourable Henry Miller. That works, I guess. Boys, a couple of you were at Leicester to view that fantastic victory on Saturday. But apart from Leicester, how have you all been? I haven't seen some of you in quite a while.
Yeah, I'll get this started. I was at Leicester. I was in the press box at Leicester. Thanks, University. I love being on journalism. So got experience all that. That was good. But apart from that, very boring life I lead, and just been getting my head down, finishing uni work type stuff. But yeah, I've been doing good. Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, I've been doing great. Thank you, Jack. I've even presented the last two Yellow Fridays on BBC Radio Norfolk. So yeah, you may have heard my voice if you tuned in to either of those shows, and yeah, really enjoyed discussing all things Norwich on there. So yeah, for me, it's sort of been a big couple of weeks.
Yeah, I want to say actually, Henry, I have watched a few of your appearances recently, and they have been fantastic, mate. So well done on that. Anytime, mate. That definitely been absolutely fantastic, and it's always good to have as many people following and writing and just covering Norwich City as possible. So yeah, very very good work, mate. And yeah, for me, same old, really. Doing a bit more freelance writing again, which is all good. Obviously, you guys can probably see my new Twitter handle there. So if you want to see some or read, some new Norwich City content / EFL content, then feel free to give me a follow, and hopefully I'll be much more active on there in the coming weeks ahead. But overall, I think it's very, very hard not to be happy and chirping, just due to really Philippe Clement's amazing work with Norwich City at the minute.
Absolutely. And I just have to say, look at how these boys have grown. Matthew in the press box, Henry presenting Yellow Friday, William doing all of his writing, even Freddie basically presenting Match of the Day. He's probably cooking Gary Lineker dinner. That's why I can't be here tonight. Maybe, I don't know. But yes, we march on without him. But yes, we are all amazingly successful. I'm so proud of all of you. I'm like I was going to say like a father. I'm more like a weird uncle, but there we go. Moving on from Gary Lineker, who was probably a very disappointed Leicester fan, having watched Norwich City absolutely trounce Leicester. Well, not trounce, but 2-0. It's a good result. Again, it's a result that puts them very much in the relegation mire, puts us 11 points clear of them. Really, I think my question is, what do you make of this Philippe Clement miracle that he has overseen? The fact that he has pulled us from a position where we were dead in the water. We were miles away from safety. We are now miles the other way from safety. He's doing it with one of the longest injury lists that I have seen in my many years of watching Norwich. He's doing it with players out of position. He's doing it with players who were out in the cold and deemed not good enough to play for this football club. But yeah, he literally could turn water into wine. I don't want to make religious parallels, but I feel like he could. But yeah, it can only be defined as miraculous, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you got to look at the difference between Matty and even that sort of second half Leicester, where under Manu, we just looked so, I can't remember what the word is, but so undetermined, so undrilled. And we just looked like, it looked more like a group of lads who were just gone, to play like an 11-a-side game with their mates or something. Just no thoughts, no vibes, no tactics, no nothing. Just kick a ball out for 90 minutes and see what happens. And that was just, we all hated that. And that's why so many people got onto this. I don't want to say hate train because that's too harsh, but like a lot of people started to not rate some of the people we had, Slimani being one of those people, even like Sargent and Kovacevic as well, and Darlin, Cordoba, etc., etc., etc. But even then, that second half of Leicester, I mean, you could say the whole game throughout Leicester, but I'm going to choose the second half of Leicester specifically because when we came up against Leicester, they looked like how we did that start of the season under Manning. They just didn't have that drill. They didn't have that strictness where Clement always got these boys playing with a lot of discipline. He's got them playing good football with a clear philosophy. And I think through a lot of that game, it's not that we were struggling to make chances, but we just couldn't get that little bit of quality in that final third. And then his substitutions came on, killed the game for Leicester. They had no hope. And that's just miraculous. To do that in a season as well, not even a full season, like not even half a season, really, to go from what we were before December and before Clement to now this is a monumental change. And I don't think there's many other managers in England right now that could do something like Clement. Maybe I'm being a bit too hype because maybe I'm being a bit biased because he's Norwich City manager and I'm a Norwich City fan. Maybe that's the case. But I look through across all the 92 and I just don't see a manager that's done what Clement has done this season with Norwich.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one of the key words for me is just bravery. I think for him to come in and assert his authority almost instantly, as Matthew was saying, we were dead and buried under Liam Manning. So for him to come in and to sort of make sure that the players get the basics right, but also not be afraid to take risks. Say, for example, ANIS Ben Slimani. Yes, he was sort of cast aside by Liam Manning, but I don't really think anyone blamed Liam Manning for that. I think a lot of people saw ANIS Ben Slimani, especially in the second half of last season, and thought, oh, well, you know, we probably should cash in on him if a team would come in for him. The fact that he's playing out of position now and is consistently one of our best players when he plays just shows you how brave Clement was to take a risk on players. Yes, because his hand was forced with the injury crisis, but the fact that he goes, no, I believe in you, I back you, to play as a number 10, and for him to do as well as he is doing is an absolute masterstroke. Right? It is a stroke of genius from Clement, and you know, it's not the only player he's done. I think Liam Gibbs had his best game in a while against Leicester, and you could even argue like games such as Walsall in the Cup as well, where he's been playing good and it is again a fringe player. And Clement just knows how to get the best out of players and how to motivate players as well, which we were lacking at the start of the season. So no, already he's written himself into Norwich folklore, and rightly so, because it did look like whoever would come in would struggle to keep this side up. But we've not just done it; we've done it with ease now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the point which I would like to raise as well, in terms of like stylistically speaking, is that it felt like under Liam Manning there was an emphasis to try and contain teams and sit in quite a low block and quite a passive and almost try and play like in quite a passive manner and not try and be proactive out of possession. And then you look back maybe 12 months ago as well with JHT, and his style was all about trying to play through the thirds and being very, very methodical in how we try and progress the play. But the biggest compliment, sorry, which I can give Clement is that he seemed to merge both of those two aspects into one, and I think that shows a real good signs of a great head coach, especially as well given the time frame. One of my biggest criticisms last year of Johannes Hoff-Torret was that I never really felt like we showed enough bravery and courage to kind of play directly and proactively in the attacking third. It almost felt like we almost wanted to try and play for control and not to score goals. But if you were to look at the profiles of our 4 players in the attacking part of our team on Saturday, Paris Maghoma, Ali Ahmed, Liam Gibbs, and Matthias Kvisgarten. Maybe not so much Kvisgarten, but those 3 attacking midfielders behind the striker, I'd say probably the best attribute of those players is actually being proactive and taking the game on due to their physical capabilities in terms of their speed and their strength as well. And I think that's a real key pillar of why I've been so successful as well. Although we've shown great bravery and courage to play through the thirds and play more direct as well, we've actually brought in players as well who have got their mentality of no fear and want to try and make things happen. And I think especially in the last 18 months, we definitely lacked that bit of our play quite badly. And I was saying probably about 3 months ago that our number 10 position was looking desperately short, but Philippe Clement has now got 3 really good options in there, arguably 4. I mean, let's not forget as well, Oscar Schwartau as well is also a very good option to play in that attacking midfield position. And you've got the likes of Maghoma and Somani. And for me, it's really difficult to try and pick one of those players in the 10 role at the minute as well. So, look, I think one thing which Clement has done, obviously, he's improved everybody. I think that is there for all to see. But he's managed to merge a real well cohesive drilled shape off the ball. But he's also managed to try and instill that no-fear mentality into the team, as well as recognising the fact that we need to bring in players who kind of have that physical output. And I think the likes of Maghoma, Ali Ahmed, etc., they have that in abundance. And I think that's a very key link, I think, for why I've been so successful. Almost we've found players externally who have got that bit of flair and that a bit of imagination and that bit of speed. And we've almost matched that with our real strong, cohesive, proactive play through the third as well. So I think it's been quite a very well linked transfer window in January. But I think as well as that, Clement deserves big credit, because I think what he's done in 4 months is nothing short of exemplary, really.
Definitely. And I think even as an individual, you look at him, he's a breath of fresh air. He almost just lacks arrogance. An arrogance that I think a lot of fans were quite agitated about Liam Manning, the whole comment of nothing will change if you change me. And just the fact that he just seemed very stubborn in his ways. Anyone who's roughly followed Huddersfield Town over the last couple of weeks will kind of, get Vietnam flashbacks, because it's happening again. But Clement, he might not be a really humble guy, but that's the way he's coming across. I mean, in that after the Leicester win, he was saying, well, yes, it's a good win, but I was actually really disappointed in a lot of aspects of the game. And there's lots of things for us to improve on. And that is just the correct mentality, to just not rest on your laurels and be the center of attention. He was really angry when Kenny McLean made him celebrate on his own. But it had to happen. I kind of love it. But again, he's, like you say, Will, he has literally every player, apart from maybe Shane Duffy and Emi Marcondes, has improved. So it is an incredible kind of track record. But again, more of a spotlight on some of those attacking options. Obviously, the goal scorers kind of take the headline in terms of Ali Ahmed and Anis Ben Slimani, how he came on and completely changed the game. But Paris, Paris, man. Can we talk about Paris for a second? Like, what he is something else, is kind of the best way to describe it. And we've had flair players in the past which are very good with tricks and movement on the ball, etc., but he's actually providing end product as well. So for less than £1 million from a Premier League side, how old is he? 24, 25 or 24? This feels like an unbelievable bargain. And I'm actually going to really specifically pinpoint a point that you sort of went on, Will, just in terms of the competition in the number 10, because whilst Maghoma had a really good first half, really caught the eye, was brilliant against Sheffield Wednesday, clearly he's one a bit like a Chris Goran, where injury-wise, we need to wrap him in cotton wool and can't have him play for more than an hour. So where do you see that number 10 position in terms of that competition? Where do you see that going? Would you like to see Maghoma starting and completing full 90s? Do you think that Ben Slimani and him need to alternate? Because, again, this was a position within the team that we desperately needed to fix in January, and now we've almost gone the other way. We've almost got, like, as Will said, way too many options. How do you guys see it playing out?
I was pleasantly surprised at Maghoma. I didn't expect him to start. I thought, okay, he played in midweek. I thought it was going to be Slimani in that 10 role, but Maghoma played really choppy, but in a good way, of course. And that first half, really unlucky not to get a goal or two. Really unlucky. Looked in control of that ball at all times. I can't remember him losing it through any trickery or anything. And, you know, that run where has been posted to every socials that he was unlucky not to score, I think it was early in the second half, was brilliant. And so I think that he has a right to be starting as well, only 24. But as well, Slimani has been amazing, and he's had that end product. And we saw on Saturday, he came on and completely changed that game for Norwich. Like, I reckon the reason we win that game is because of Slimani, because he just looked so, like, I don't want to say so much better than Maghoma. I think they're two different type of players. But you could see Slimani, like, it was a fairly even first half with Maghoma on, and that was less so with him because he, like you said, he did control that game quite well. But as soon as Slimani came on, Norwich just found another gear, and Leicester just couldn't catch anything to do with Norwich. And that really led to those two goals that we scored. And so I think it's a really difficult situation for Philip Clement. And as Will mentioned earlier, you've got Schwartel there as well who can play. And we've got such good depth in that sort of role. I think it's harsh to sit here and say, well, Maghoma should start or Slimani should start and play. Because I feel like they can just differentiate who plays in that 10 and just swap whoever it is, even if it's just at half time, because they give two different things. It's two different ways of Norwich can play, and it's two different ways that a lot of teams will struggle with, because with Maghoma, we can sort of say, okay, here's the ball, go make some magic happen, and he will do. And with Slimani, it's, okay, we want to find this upper gear where we're playing it, where everyone is involved in creating chances, and where we want to play a lot more disciplined but a lot more faster as well. And I feel like they both excel at those roles. And so I think we can afford, with that sort of depth that we have in that number 10, to play like that and have Maghoma one half, Slimani the other, and then rotate whenever. But there's such good 10s to have in this league.
Yeah, I think your two previous questions have sort of gone hand in hand, really, because it's absolutely ludicrous that we're sat here in probably the worst of the injury crisis that we've ever seen, and we're talking about depth in a certain position. But that's exactly what we've got now. You know, how many times this season have we watched games and thought, we've literally got no one on the bench who can come on and make a difference and make a change. The fact is now, regardless of who you start in that number 10, whether it is ANIS Ben Slimani or Paris Maghoma, you know that whoever doesn't start can come on and impact the game, just like how ANIS Ben Slimani did against Leicester. So I think whilst we are in this position, we should certainly relish it. But no, Jack, I think you're right. Paris Maghoma, by the sounds of it, we've got the player who Bolton Wanderers fans saw in League One, someone who is just not afraid to sort of run past run past defenders and take those shots, but and have a little flair in that too. But he is injury prone, as Brentford fans would tell you. So the fact now that two of our top four will probably be Paris Maghoma and Mateus Visgarden, players who have got injury records, we do, if possible, need to wrap them up in cotton wool. And if either of those two plays a full 90 minutes, then I think there's probably an issue there. A, because you're not utilising your bench correctly in terms of players like ABS or whoever misses out in that number 10 position, and B, because they are so injury prone, you need to just get those fresh legs on to try and keep them fit, especially, you know, if Norwich were to beat Leeds and progress in the cup as well. So yeah, I think it's a bit of both, but I'm certainly enjoying the fact that we do have that strength and depth in that number 10 position who can come on and impact games.
Yeah, I remember putting in your watch along, which you done, Jack, with Freddie, about it was as the halftime whistle blew in the Norwich Sheffield Wednesday game. I posed you guys the question of on who would you rather start in our attacking midfield position, and which one of the and which one of the three would you both start? Because I was generally stumped, because I think all three of those players provide you with so much options. I mean, it is still really early days, so it's really hard to make thorough conclusions, and it's really hard to formulate an opinion on who is the best player to start in a strongest 11. So I do agree with what Matt's points there, is that almost their profiles could probably actually help us in some certain games rather than some others. But the main points which I'm getting at the minute is I feel like ANIS Ben-Semanni, I think his greatest strength is that he's got some real good chemistry as well with our other attacking players. You look at the goal contributions which Ali Ahmed and ANIS Ben-Semanni have made together, and that is now becoming quite a seismic volume as well. So I think that's one of Semanni's biggest strengths, is that I think he's very strong at bringing other players into play, and I think it makes us a much more cohesive and a much better, intrinsic and very fluid side in possession. But I almost look at Maghoma and think this player has just got so much individual quality, and he is so sharp, he is so slick, and I think the way how he can evade contact in such small spaces for a very tall man, that is mightily impressive. Like that is a sign of a real special player for me. I know it was Sheffield Wednesday, and I know they weren't the best at almost containing him and kind of nullifying space for him to operate, but just his speed of thought to play certain passes and his almost ability to turn away from his man, I thought that was pretty special. And the main conclusion I'm getting right now is that I think Maghoma probably suits games better when we need that spark of quality. So maybe that does suggest right now he's probably better off the bench in terms of creating that spark, because I think he almost plays for himself in a way, because he's got so much quality, and he believes that he can probably find that bit of space or find that key pass out of nothing. And I think that's a very good skill to have, especially if you were to go into next season, for example, where if Norwich do have a scenario where they are competing in the top six and more teams come to Carrow Road and sit very compact and deep, I think in the future he could be a very good and key ingredient for actually unlocking defences. But I think for now, I think what Semanni provides is that real fluidity, and I think he's probably our best attacking midfielder at connecting the play together and making Visgarden and Ali Ahmed and a minute Liam Gibbs all play well together as a pairing. I think although Maghoma started the game really brightly, and Ahmed and Gibbs were also efficient, which has already been previously outlined, I just felt that ANIS Ben-Semanni almost kind of tied us together a bit better and made us a bit more cohesive. And I think he occupied some spaces as well, which is really hard for Leicester to try and figure out where he was at times as well. So I just think for that bit more tactical nous and that bit of better fluidity in this game, and I think Semanni is probably our best option for now. But I think the situation is so fluid because, as you say, Maghoma probably isn't 100% fit yet, so that situation can flip on its head. But I think what we've got is three really good options when they're all fully fit. And I'm really excited to see how all three of those blossom, because I think it's going to be a real area of depth.
Yep, and definitely would be ideal if one of them could just learn to play a little bit out wide. I mean, Henry, you alluded to it. Liam Gibbs, he didn't play badly against Leicester City. Give him his credit. But again, I'm trying to think how many positions for Norwich City Liam Gibbs hasn't played for. I think all we need, maybe like last game of the season, if we're 7-0 up, Vlad just gives him the gloves. Just give him a go. To be honest, Clement would be up for it in terms of his position swapping. We'll get to that. I did also just want to pick up on the point that you raised, Will, just about Ahmed and Slimani. They are just, in terms of a duo, they're just brilliant. When one contributes, the other contributes. There is no more iconic duo, maybe, than the Fat Cat and the Canary. This podcast is sponsored by the Fat Cat and
Very
Canary.
well done, Jack.
Yeah. I was thinking of that one. Yeah. Shall we get on to Clement potentially playing strikers centre backs at striker, because again, it wouldn't be a MyFootballWriter podcast if we weren't talking about injuries and trying to figure out how to stop them. Literally every episode, I'm getting tired of it myself, and we're all getting tired of it, because this injury list just keeps on growing. Poor Motore, within about 5 minutes, completely tears his groin and he's out for a month, maybe 6 weeks. Fantastic. Just as another one of our strikers has left us, another one is on the injury table. So again, in the press conference, Clement came out and said that he will use the options that he has available. There are some centre halves who have played as striker. So and most crucially and most sort of jarring is that he said he's not going to promote from within the under 21. So maybe more of a kind of a question relating to the academy. Maybe one will eventually come to you, William Grant. But how do you guys generally feel about the kind of lack of academy presence in the team this season? I think Will Grant will have his own very specific opinion on it. I mean, my opinion generally is that I like having youth prospects in the team. It's something that we're very much used to within the first team, especially given the injury crisis that we've had. Academy graduates have been integrated into the first team even when there haven't been injuries. You know, you look at Max Aarons, Jamal Lewis, they kind of forced their way in. This kind of feels like a perfect opportunity if there was a player of quality in the academy. I guess that's kind of the bigger question. I guess with a season that's kind of curtailing, we're probably not going to go down. We're definitely not going to go up. Is there some opportunity to try academy players, even though Clement has said that he's not going to do it? What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing. I mean, I get not using the academy players earlier on because we need to fight for that survival, which looked very in doubt throughout most of the season. And I get that, and that's not the time where you really want to be like relying on these under 21s, under 18s academy products unless they're really, really good in the Norfolk, Yamal or whatever. Then there isn't much point in playing them. But when you're in a situation like this, as you said, Jack, where we're becoming more safe, and dare I even say it now, we are safe, we're not going to go up. This does feel like a good time for someone like an Errol Mundell-Smith, who did feature on Saturday against Leicester, and I thought he looked pretty good, actually, up top, even though he is that winger. But this is the time where I think you do sort of need to go, okay, maybe it's time to give maybe a few of them a bit of game time, even if they don't go on and feature and be big stars at Norwich that we've seen before with some academy products. We can sit there and say, well, we've given them a bit of time and see what they're like. We see what the fans think of them as well. Here's what we're going to do to continue their development, or we're going to release them. Because I know he said about Kenabo and some of the other striker options from our academy being out on loan, so we can't use them, which is a bit of a shame. But I think this is a time where you can sort of start to look at those under 21s, those under 18s, and start rewarding them, I suppose, for their good talent and for their good performances in those lower leagues. And even if it's just like they're coming off the bench at 70 minutes or 65 minutes or whatever, just to go and do whatever for a little while, just to get that experience. That's all you need. You're not asking them to go on, score a hat trick, and then kick the corner flag down. You're not asking that. You just want them to get that experience, and then so you can see, okay, is there maybe a place in the squad for these young players, or would it be better if we just let them go or keep them down in the academy for a bit longer? It's something I disagree with Clement, but I disagreed with him before, and look where that got me. So I've chosen my words carefully. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, well, I found it interesting that Matthew said that Norwich don't have the Norfolk Lamine Yamal on their hands, because of course they did, and they sold him to Barcelona recently. But that might just be another one for Will. But I believe there are rules as to AJ Tavares in terms of being a scholar. He can get a professional contract, which made it easy for him to go to Barcelona, I believe. And anyway, no one's turning that down. But I think the main point here, when it comes to the striker debate, and obviously seeing Jakub Medic deputised in that position the other week, the main point that stands out, again, goes back to Clement and getting the best out of the players. It shows how well Jose Cordoba and Rory McConville have done, that our next two centre-backs are now options going forward as well. Because, again, Jose Cordoba is someone who was definitely written out by a lot of Norwich people, not just under Liam Manning, but under Johannes Hoftorup as well. He looked very poor, and now he's probably one of the first names on the team sheet. He's been that good under Philippe Clement. So I think in terms of this debate, you do have to give the two actual centre-backs who are playing week in, week out a huge amount of credit. But I think when it comes to strikers and Clement's squad, I think he really wants a settled squad. And him saying he won't dip into the academy, that doesn't mean he won't dip into youth players who have come through the academy. Case in point, Errol Mundle-Smith. Errol Mundle-Smith has been in and around the first team all season, really. So to him, he probably views him as a senior player. And I'm sure that Errol Mundle-Smith will get his chance in this team, whether he's starting games or not. I'm sure he will. Over the past couple of seasons, you've seen it with the likes of Gabe Forsyth and Elliot Miles and players like that. In terms of the other strikers in the Norwich youth team, you've got Kennebo, of course, who's on loan at Boston, who are probably lower mid-table in the National League. So again, that would be a massive step up if he was to come on and even play a few minutes for Kennebo. And you've got someone like LaShawn Seeley, who was recently at Kings Lynn Town, who was just, I believe he was either on a short-term loan or had his loan terminated. But yeah, again, he's probably not really an option when he's been playing for Kings Lynn Town, who are in the National League North. So look, we all love Philippe Clement. We all trust his judgments, and I think he's probably going about this in the right way. And if he's seeing something in Jakub Medic in terms of his goal scoring ability in training, then I'm all for it. But I think Errol Mundle-Smith will hopefully get a few minutes under his belt. But what I find interesting as well is this Leeds United game, because normally, obviously, we probably will name a full strength squad if we are going for the cup, and now that we are safe in the Championship more or less. But if you're managing games and managing squads, you can't surely start Visgarden up front every single game, especially if you want to protect him, as we know he is injury prone as well. So someone like an Errol Mundle-Smith or a Jakub Medic will have to start a game from now until the end of the season, or at least from now until Mo Toure is back.
Goodness me. I can't believe we got into a situation when we spent 40 million quid on Jakub Medic as being considered as a striker option. Yeah, that's a really uncomfortable view in hearing that. But Henry does state some really good facts there as well. Especially as well regarding Cordoba, but I want to touch on just before we go on to the academy and all the Medic drama. I think, as Henry said, I think Jose Cordoba probably played his best game in a Norwich shirt this weekend. I thought it was absolutely outstanding. And what I'm seeing now in Jose's games is real maturity. And I think for me, that's been a real point where I've almost doubted him at times. So he's got to continue that now between now till the end of the season, because I think Norwich need to, in the next 10 games coming up, is they've got to try and start developing a core for next season. And I think that doesn't mean playing academy players in all different zones of the pitch, because I think one major element last season, well, this time last season, is that I find it very hard to argue with any of you about who is our main core of this side going forwards. And I think now we've got an opportunity where we're now a bit safe in the league, and I think we probably only need to probably be another 5 to 7 more points to actually confirm survival. I think now isn't the time to rest on our laurels. It's the time to set a real marker for next season. I really do think that. It's a real shame that Pelly Matson isn't available right now, as I think that Pelly Matson, Kenny McLean midfield alongside that Cordoba and McConville, central spine of the pitch, if you will, or that central square, I think that would be a real key success story for next season. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But yeah, we've all seen what happens with Norwich and their injuries and their squad makeup across the last 2 years. But I think for me, with the Jakub Medic situation, I just find it really sad. And if I was to put myself in one of the academy director's shoes, and I'm seeing a 5th choice centre half come on up front as my now backup option, I'd be a bit disappointed in the work that I've done leading to that point. Look, I know Aaron Mundle-Smith, like, you've got to give them credit for that. Like, they have supported his development to get into the first team. But the fact that we've got no other option to at least come on off the bench in that case, or not at least providing Clement options. And I actually spoke about this in a tweet last week as well, is that Norwich have now probably got their best pedigree manager they've probably had in the last few years. And now's the time to really support him and give him all the resources we can give him. And it just feels like from an academy perspective right now, we aren't doing that at all. And that's a real worry for me. I think how football works and how academy football works as well is that you get some seasons where the development and the caliber of players are better than others. That's just a full-grown fact. But we kind of have a situation where we've probably only this season given Aaron Mundle-Smith a chance for about, 2 and a bit games. I think there definitely needs to be more done there. I think ever since the Lucien Mahovo conundrum, the Lucien Mahovo introduction, should I say, sorry, the academy development has been a bit sparse in terms of getting players into the first team. And I just think when you're at a club like Norwich, and I know now we are really blessed with financial resource, but there's still a key pillar and there's still a key ingredient for youth development. And that is something which I feel really strongly about as well. Our model is to try and sell players on for genuine profit. And the best way you do that is by bringing your own players. And I just think the pipeline this season, but probably the last 18 months, has been a bit lackluster. I personally think there are some real good talents in our academy, and we will see them probably flourish in the next 2 years. We've currently got Finn Cork, who has now broke the record and is now not just top underrated Premier League goal scorer since they were a Category 1 academy. So that's real something to get excited about as well. And you have got some youth internationals as well who play for their country. But I'm just saying, Norwich has spent, although it's not a massive amount of money, but they spent a fair churn of their money trying to bring in high caliber pedigree young players. And the fact we probably haven't seen as many of them break into the first team, probably since Callum Fisher and Lucy Mahovo, I find that a bit disappointing, if you ask me. And And although I've been really, really grateful for the owners and Philip Clement for getting the best out of the likes of Hamid Toure and Ali Ahmed, if I'm academy director, I feel like I need to be stepping up and doing my job a little bit better to try and get some more bodies into the first team, because youth development is a key pillar and it's a key DNA of our football club. And I just think right now we aren't getting it quite right. As I said, football is cyclical, but when I saw Medic come off the bench last week, although at first it was quite amusing because seeing a big 6'6" centre half up front, that can be quite funny at times. But I think as the game went on, I was like, how are we not providing more options for a really, really talented head coach from the academy to try and compete in that role? And it'd be really, really good to see, because I think, as Henry said as well, like, we cannot rely on Kvisgaard to stay fit for 10 games and plus an FA Cup game for the rest of the season. So that means Aaron Smith will get some chances. And I think, given the right support network around him, he can flourish. But I just think we need to be providing a bit more depth for Philip Clement from an academy perspective. And I'm just not quite convinced we are at the minute. We've got some fantastic long-term prospects at our football club. And I'm convinced about that. Elliot Miles, Gabe Forsyth, Fincourt, Baton Oscan. They are just a few to name. But I think right now, I think it's been a really, really poor cycle in terms of how much money Norwich has spent on these players to get them into the first team, as well as needless to say, they've had quite a few poor defeats to a plethora of inferior category, academy category class like 3 or 4 as well. So I just think a bit more probably needs to be done in that regard for me. Sorry for my long rant.
No, if anyone is within their rights to talk about this subject matter, it's you, William Grant. So yes, very, very good points made. More sort of a focus on the defence. So a final general point until we get into some quick fire stuff. I think we just haven't really focused on it in recent podcasts. Just a focus on the defence. I mean, we've spoken about it a bit in the last segment as well, in terms of some of the brilliant individuals. If you look at like the defence on paper, I just wouldn't look at it on paper, because paper doesn't paint it in the right way. I mean, we've got 7 clean sheets and we've conceded the same amount of goals as West Brom. And I think in terms of clean sheets in total in the Championship, it puts us about 18th or 19th, which is unequivocally awful. But I can't remember getting a clean sheet under Liam Manning. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it Clement that gave us our first clean sheet? It must have been.
No, it wasn't. It was Liam Manning, I believe.
It was Blackburn, wasn't it?
Blackburn, yeah.
Well done, Liam.
Was it also 2-1, or was it 2-0 in the Carabao Cup Watford game? Am I right? Or my?
No, that was 2-1. That was 2-1.
2-1. Fair. Sorry.
That's all right. But we are talking about the league. 7 league clean sheets, 35 goals conceded. It's not pretty viewing, but again, if you kind of take Liam Manning out of it and you maybe look at sort of where, if Clement had been here at the start of the season, a big magical question that we always ask ourselves: oh, Henry, where have you gone? He's magically disappeared. I reckon he's run out of battery, everyone. Did I say Liam Grant? I said William Grant. Here's Henry. The joys of
don't know what happened there.
We're not live, but we might as well be live. Or the magic of live podcasting. What on earth was my point? Anyway, yes, terrible defence. Yes, we conceded 35 goals. I blame Liam Manning. But again, you look at those individuals and you look at young Kellen Fisher, young Ben Cresceni, young Rory McConville, and still relatively young, was he 24, 25 again, Jose Cordoba. Those 4 are probably now undroppable. Like, usually you'd kind of go into Norwich games and you'd be quite worried and you'd always expect a goal to go in. Have you gone the other way yet, gentlemen? Have you got to the point where you're almost feeling like, oh, I actually feel confidence with this back 4? I actually feel like we're capable of keeping goals out. Is it perhaps Vlad's sort of scattergun nature that maybe unsettles you? Or do you think the fact that this is quite a young back four, again, with the kind of youth conversation, that's actually one that's really promising going into a full season under Philippe Clement?
So I think ultimately, I think ultimately, well, it goes back to Jakov Medic. Well, really, Jakov Medic and Shane Duffy, they're sort of the only two players in the defence who have played minutes this season who have not really seen that much of in their natural position under Liam Manning. But, you know, if Jakov Medic gets the chance at centre back under Philippe Clement, I'm sure he'd do well. But no, I think, am I confident that this side will keep out goals? No, I'm not still. And that was probably because of the start of the season. And yeah, maybe that scattergun approach, as you said, Jack. But yeah, I really like Vladan Kovacevic. I think he is a good goalkeeper. He's a progressive goalkeeper, but he has a mistake in him. Of course he does. I think it's naive not to say that. But I think he's won us far more points than he's lost us this season, if I'm being brutally honest. But I think that defence speaks for itself. I think Ben Crescenti is a really good player who, again, has been unlucky with injuries, as has Lucien Mahovo. And you all know my thoughts on Jack Stacey. I think he's a really good right back who gives 7 out of 10 every single game. And Kellen Fisher has just been that good this season that Jack Stacey has had to either bide his time when Kellen's playing on the other flank, or just not get in the team. And yeah, I do feel sorry for Jack Stacey in that regard. But as you said, the main defenders have been really good. And I think it was the FA Cup game against West Brom as well. Harry Darling, he got an assist, if I'm not mistaken. I think he got the assist for Maghoma's goal. And yeah, he looked really good there as well. So yeah, this is the wonders of Philippe Clement again, isn't it? Just being able to transform players who probably look down and out, and yeah, making them look quite rigid and quite stable. But I don't know. It's got to the stage now where if we score, I do expect Norwich to come back and either draw the game or win the game. But yeah, I'm still buzzing if we keep a clean sheet because of just how bad we were at keeping a clean sheet in the first part of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I've never rated clean sheets as a very important stat, because you could go and win a game 5-1 and no one's going to be talking about clean sheets as the fact that, we scored 5 goals and won. I've never really cared for it. I think it's one of those stats that just sound nice whenever people come up and say, we kept 7 clean sheets in a row. It's like, good for you, but you've drawn 0-0 in 5 of them. But now, I mean, with this season, I think clean sheets are mattering a bit more with this Norwich side, and as well with just the quality we had just everywhere. I mean, because I think the question you asked at was very sort of how good is the defence, but actually I think we could talk about how good not only the defence is, but that midfield. We've had Paddy Matson, who's been brilliant this season. Sam Field has been amazing as well. When I saw him on Saturday, he didn't even think about putting a foot wrong. I gave like a man of the match thing to Slimani, but I went home and I sort of thought about it more, and I thought, actually, I probably would have given it to Field, because Slimani came on, changed the game, but Field looked so good. He looked so confident. He made every tackle, made every block. He was just so good in the middle of that pitch, and he allowed us to get so much stability in the squad. And I know Paddy Matson is a very similar type of player, where he doesn't even think about making a foot wrong. He's a great tackler. He can do all this. And it's just really good. But as well, we've got to talk about not only how good our defense has been, but just how young they are. I mean, Fisher is 21. He plays like he's been playing in the Championship and even the Prem for 10 years. It's insane to think he came from Bromley. Jose Cordoba came from Bulgaria and, didn't have the greatest of starts, but did show stuff during that early sort of Johannes Hoftorp era. And now he's realising it. Clement's pushing him to be that player that we were seeing and really doing a good job, a hell of a good job. As well with Conville, I know when we signed him from Brighton, a lot of Brighton fans that knew who he was in the academy were very upset to lose him. And you can see why. He's a very solid, very good defender who can control himself at any stage of the game with the ball in any position of the pitch. He's just been so a sort of steady hand. And Cresani as well. I mean, I think in my opinion, he's probably been the weakest of the four, but definitely doesn't mean he's been a bad player. He's had a lot of bad luck with injuries, but he's really come back with his vengeance ever since West Brom that when he scored that first goal, when he scored his first goal for the club. I think it might have been his first goal in senior football as well. But he's just looked on fire. And he had a difficult job on Saturday, marking Abdul Fattah, and he done it effortlessly. He done it so flawlessly. And Fattah, who Leicester were looking at to try and go and bring them things throughout all of the game, just didn't have a sniff at anything, really. And anything that he did was blazed over the bar to Filbert Way, the old stadium. But it was a great showing for Cresani. And you did raise a good point there with Kovacevic as well, being a bit... we've known this for ages. He's been a great shot stopper, sure. Really, really good. But it's other things like with his crossing I picked out earlier on under Manny. It's when he has the ball at his feet that is sort of a bit of a bum-clenching moment. And we saw that again on Saturday when he almost got tackled by Bats and Daka and got very lucky to actually get the ball in his hands again. But that was one of those moments where he thought, oh, no, this is going to be a goal. And thankfully it wasn't. But it's those things that just make you sort of, I don't want to say second-guess Kovacevic because we all know his quality. But it's one of those things where you go, okay, Kovacevic, let's not do too much. Let's just catch the ball. Catch the ball. That's all you need to do. All you need to do, catch the ball. You don't need to be Edison. You don't need to be Allison. But, he is a great shortstop. And I think the main thing and the biggest reason, the biggest thing we can improve on in that defense is to Kovacevic to cut that down. But that's even then. It sounds like it'd be really negative, but we've been superb defense and we've been superb in defensive midfield as well. We've just been perfect near enough, and it's definitely been such a bonus to have, and definitely the reason why we've been able to keep those clean sheets is because not only in defence are we good, we're good in every stage of the pitch where we're looking to defend.
Yeah, I'm really, really glad Matty mentioned about Sam Field, actually, and as well as Kenny McLean. I think both of those guys have really, really helped the team settle down. And I think the two main attributes which I'm getting from our defensive play at the minute is composure and calmness. And I think that's probably getting the best out of Cordoba. I think almost the maturity and the nous of Field and McLean, I think they're almost guiding him through games. And I think when Cordoba's getting that initial guidance, he can then really flourish because I think he's got some really, really good talented attributes to his game. No more so than his strength, but actually at times I think he does show some real, real good choices in terms of his play out of possession and actually on the ball as well. And a key thing which we were saying during the Manning era as well was just the sheer multitude of the individual errors we've conceded. And I just think the passing accuracy of McConville and Cordoba, I think, although it sounds like really, really simple things about just retaining the ball in deep areas, it's actually really, really important as well, because I think there was so many case studies as well where I think Darling and Medic, I don't think they were overly secure in possession as well. I think they did kind of play a few too many mishit passes at times. So I think that's really important as well, that it kind of eliminated that that weakness to our game. But yeah, I think it's more so been that central quartet of McLean, Field, and Cordoba and McConville. I think they've really helped each other kind of through games really. And what Sam Field has done is he's almost added that bit of nous, but he's almost allowed Kenny McLean to play slightly higher up. And I think Kenny's on the ball work, I think that's always been quite underappreciated at Norwich as well. We even saw it to great effect, didn't we? In our last home game where he scored against Birmingham, a really, really nice finish. Oh, sorry, the game before, obviously Wednesday. So I think that's been really encouraging as well, really, how Field and McLean have almost combined. I think it's allowed McLean to play a bit more advanced as well, which I actually think he enjoys. So, yeah, I've been really impressed as well as almost eliminating turnovers against us as well, because I think our main weakness under Manning was just the lack of speed and the ability and the passive nature about how he would defend in potential counter-attack scenarios. And I think McLean and Field have shown that bit of intelligence to maintain some really, really good, solid defensive positions. And even as well, Kellen Fisher from our own set pieces, I think he's almost shown a bit of nous, and he's shown the right places to stand when to try and nullify counter-attacks against us as well. So it's a very, very physical league. There's a lot of players in this division who are very, very quick. So I think it's really important to get those tactical positions right. And I think that's definitely been a key pillar to our success, really. And long may it continue.
And apologies for any of the players that we haven't praised in this podcast. I feel like we've covered almost everyone, but you've just been very good. Like, we can't really complain. We're having a great time. Let's continue to have a great time. Let's cap off this fantastic podcast. It's been a fantastic. Everyone, has it not been a fantastic podcast? Everyone watching, has it not been a fantastic podcast? If you want to see another fantastic podcast, then like and subscribe and comment and do all of that fun stuff that we like to see. Get involved, and we'll make episode 62 and more. But yes, we've got to the final segment of the podcast, which is quickfire hot takes. As always, I've spiced it up slightly, so none of the kind of 5 questions. What I'm going to pose to you is I'm going to question a list of players and their legend status. Now, crucially, there are players that have played for Norwich that are cemented as legends. Grant Holt, Timu Pukki, all of those players who are on that big banner on the Gerald stand, they are bona fide legends. You can't deny that. But what I want to know is, where do you sort the players who are kind of in the middle, the players who are not complete bona fide legends, but are maybe arguable legends? So I've got a list of players here that are kind of in that middle ground, and I'd be very interested to know where you would sort them, legend or not. If any of these players would like to come on the podcast. If we don't think you're a legend, we still think you're fantastic. You're just not cream of the crop. So let's go Henry, Matty, Will, in that order. First player for you to decide, legend or not, Stephen Whittaker.
No, he's more of a cult hero. I did love Stevie Witts when he was here. But yeah, I really liked Stephen Whittaker as a player, to be fair. But I wouldn't say he's a club legend, so to speak. But probably the ring under, because to have that assist at Wembley, no one's taken that from him, and that lives forever in terms of Norwich history. But yeah, he's not the creme de la creme.
Yeah, I agree with Henry. He's not legendary. I think the thing is with legendary is that when you think of Norwich, you've got to think of those legendary players, and I don't think anyone in the world possibly is even thinking of Stephen Whittaker at the moment. Sorry to say, Stephen. I don't even think you're thinking about yourself right now, in the nicest way possible, of course. But yeah, I wouldn't put him in that legendary status.
Yeah, full house for me, but Whittaker, you were fantastic when you were playing in that 14-15 season. Gosh, that was fantastic. Wow, the second half season was great. Agreed.
I will abstain from offering my opinion because I'm I'm just interested to know what you all think. I forgot to even say there's 10 players in total, so 9 more to get through. So we'll try and whip through these quickly. Kai Kamara.
No, nowhere near. Yeah, nowhere near. But again, cult hero.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Henry. Also, I'd just like to point out Jack fencing again. What a surprise!
I did what?
Fence sitting.
Yes, yeah, I love fence sitting. That's my favourite thing to do. William.
2 words, Mbakani clear.
It's not the same player at all, just completely different. Just like saying like Brian Gunn's clear. I mean, which he is. Yeah. Chris Martin.
Again, no, not really.
Ooh.
And the reason why is because if you were to name a striker in the promotion-winning season under Paul Lambert, where we went up to the Premier League, that wasn't Grant Holt, I doubt you'd name Chris Martin. You'd probably name Simeon Jackson. And if you were to do it for that 11-12 Premier League season, again, you probably wouldn't name Chris Martin. You'd name either Steve Morrison or Simeon Jackson. So, no.
Yeah, I think I agree with Henry there. A fantastic player and definitely helped us a lot in that championship era. But I'll move my camera on. But definitely, like, I think the problem is as well with Chris Martin, and I think he might have been a bit outdone here as well because we've had such good striking options and strikers that we would call legendary. It's sort of done him over a bit as well. So I do feel a bit sorry for that. But yeah, we've just had. I don't think he's a legendary striker for Norwich City.
Now, to be fair, I actually disagree. I think he was with us for 3 seasons, and I think he was fantastic. All of them. I think it's really hard to not say the double promotion winner is a legend. I think he was quite frankly fantastic, and I did think as well he actually contributed in the Premier League as well. And I think he really did complement Grant Holt well. Albeit maybe some might say Simeon Jackson was probably better, especially during the EFL years in terms of that dynamic. But I disagree. I think he's a legend for me.
He's a legend in Beckles, that's for sure. I'm gonna hit you. These curveballs keep coming. This one's gonna be tricky. Gary Hooper.
Again, no, not really.
Henry Miller.
Brilliant player. Brilliant player. But does he? I'll use the same argument. Someone who might come up in a while, who has just departed the club with ginger hair. If you have to name, if you have to name the club's top 4 or 5 strikers in the since I've been supporting in the last 15 years, in terms of iconic status, do they crack the top 3? No, they don't. So I don't know. I love Gary Hooper to pieces. I used to have his name on the back of my shirt. So I do love Gary Hooper, but again, he's not in those echelons of a Holt, a Pookie, even a Cameron Jerome. Like he's not in those levels. So
okay.
No, I fully agree with Henry there. I don't think he's legendary status. Just because, I just looked up how many times he played for us and the goals and that. 64 games, 18 goals. 64, 18. Does he deserve to be placed on that same rung as Pookie and Holt and all those type of players? And for me, it's just a no.
Not for me either, I'm afraid.
Okay. Moritz Leitner.
Mate, I'm going straight in first here. Absolutely not. I'm sorry.
He scored against them lot. He's part of that. No. He's part of that brilliant Farker team.
In terms of credentials, had he have done it in the Premier League, then yes. But I don't know. He's more borderline than other people for me, because the criteria that I'm going off, they have to be in successful teams like Chris Martin, like Moritz Leitner, and they've contributed something that will stick in Norwich City fans' brains forever, like score against Ipswich, say for example. Then that gets them extra brownie points as well. Would I say that Leitner's a Norwich legend? Probably not, but that's probably one of the closest that you've said, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. Is like, I am half tempted to throw him in there just because of how good he was at retaining the ball.
He was our
He's
fourth.
on like
He
that-
was our fourth choice midfielder in 1819. Like, I'm not. No.
Yeah, but that's 1819, Will.
Yes, yeah, but you can't call someone.
He's
a legend
thinking in the
if they're a
past.
choice.
This is the present, Will. We can't sit here thinking about the past forever.
All right.
Tribal Mario Vrancic.
I wouldn't. I no. I don't think I'd put him in legendary, but I'd put him very, very close.
Okay. This one, I don't know. Maybe controversial, maybe not. Ivo Pinto.
Again, no, because he was second choice for his whole time here. So,
Yeah,
cult hero, but no.
yeah, I agree with Henry.
No, like I do agree with those two, definitely for sure. I don't think he was a legend, and I actually find him a bit more infuriating than a legend. But I did love his persona.
Okay. Leroy Lita.
I'm too young.
Leroy Leiter's a championship legend, but not a Norwich legend.
Fine. All right. Cool. Yeah. Gonna get out jail free card. That. It upsets me that you're too young for Leroy Lita, but then again,
I'm also too young for Leroy Lita.
He'd be in the same category as someone like Crouchy, like an overall legend, but not a legend for Norwich.
Okay. Fine. Actually, no. Final three. We'll try and go through these quickly. Declan Rudd.
Ooh.
Academy grad, Norfolk boy, lots of Prem appearances, still in the coach setup.
Is he a legendary goalkeeper for Norwich? No, he's not. But the fact that he's forged a career, in the Championship and the Premier League, and he's still at Norwich in the academy setup, then why not? Why not?
You know what? I agree with Henry here. I think he has earned that legendary status. He's not the first goalkeeper you think of when you think of Norwich, but his longevity, and as well, he was always a fairly reliable, to my memory, number two to Buddy. I think he definitely deserves to be in that conversation. I do think he deserves to be in the upper rung.
Not for me, I'm afraid, but I do respect his loyalty for the club.
Okay. Final two. This is going to be unanimously no. Graham Dorrans.
No. Again, in the back end of that 14-15 season, I thought he was great, but no, of course not.
It's no from me.
Okay. Matthew, no.
No for me.
Okay. And final one, you kind of all predicted that I would come up with this one. Josh Sargent.
See, this is the thing with Sargent. I was saying this the other day. No. And the reason why, did he score against them lot? No, he didn't. Was he part of a memorable Norwich team? Not really. Right? And as well, did he score sort of like a memorable goal that people will sort of spend a lifetime talking about?
Yes.
The only one that he probably did was the scorpion kick against Watford, right? But that doesn't come with the same gravitas as, say, Jerome's goal at Wembley or Closer's goal against Ipswich. So, for me, he's been a very good striker for this club. But no, he's not a club legend. I'd put in my time watching Norwich, I'd put Jerome, Pookie, and Grant Holt all above him, to be honest. So
I like mentioned Stoke as well. That one they got against Stoke.
Mm.
I'm going to hand this off to Will Brownie before I answer.
No, I think Henry's spot on, personally.
Okay,
I don't know.
Matthew,
Because-
I need to push you.
Because he has done so much, and it's a shame that it ended so badly. But I think if he'd have left in the summer, or even if he'd left in January and he left on good terms, people would be calling him a legend. And I think it's not like a Rose situation where he's just gone and had one good season. That's it. He's had 3 good seasons with us at least, where he's been playing really well at the top of the championship. No, screw it. I'm saying legendary. I'm saying legendary Norwich player.
There we go. There we go. What do you all think, viewers? Do you think all of those players should be legendary? Do you think any of those takes were hideously wrong? Again, please do let us know in the comments. We read all of them. But yes, that has been episode 61 of the MyFootballWriter podcast, on the end of a fantastic February for Norwich City. Will it be a magnificent March? And will we be walking down Wembley Way, possibly after playing against a Farkerless Leeds? This could age very terribly, very quickly. But yes, hope you've enjoyed this latest installment of the MyFootballWriter podcast. Please do like, subscribe, follow us, and then we'll see you in the next video very soon.